Hi, everyone. Welcome to Genealogy Adventures. I'm Brian Sheffy.
And I'm Danya Williams. When I tell y'all we got a show, oh my God,
Mhm.
do we have a
Mhm.
show for y'all today?
And for
Woo!
those of you who caught us last Sunday, this one taps into so many of the themes that Danya and I talked about.
Yes,
So
it does. So we're
we
gonna
have,
go
yeah,
ahead.
we have so much to cover. We're just going to get straight into it. But thank you as always for tuning in, and I'm going to hand it
Always.
over to Danya to do the introductions.
Yes, so here we go. You guys, I would like to welcome Miss Mayor, first African American, first female mayor of Elaine, Arkansas, Miss Lisa Gilbert. Lisa is currently serves as a volunteer program manager with the Lee Street Community Center in her hometown of Elaine, Arkansas, and is dedicated to addressing economic and social injustices in the Arkansas Delta. As a descendant and founder of Descendants of Elaine, of the Elaine Massacre of 1919, Lisa focuses on educating, protecting, and preserving the history and stories of the Elaine Massacre. As part of her work to educate about the Elaine Massacre, Lisa created and hosted the Elaine Massacre Silent No More multimedia exhibit on the anniversary of the Elaine Massacre, September 30th, 2022. The exhibit is currently being expanded into a traveling exhibit scheduled to launch in 2024. On December 6th, in a runoff election against the incumbent mayor, Lisa took on yet another role to empower and inspire the Elaine community and was elected mayor, making history as the first Black and first elected female mayor of Elaine, Arkansas. Lisa was sworn in on January 1 and began serving her 4-year term. Please, please, y'all, I'm telling y'all right now, like I got chills. Welcome, Miss Mayor Lisa Hicks Gilbert.
Yes,
Thank
welcome
you.
to the
Hey,
Thank you. Thank you.
I
welcome to
am
the
loving
show,
it.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
and
So
congratulations on your historic win.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
yeah,
Yes.
this was an awesome one. But I'm gonna do my part because
Okay.
you do what you're doing, and
Okay.
I'm gonna do my
So
because I'm excited.
While Danya's wearing her producer's hat, I
Okay.
mean, I just have to say, prior to running for the election, I mean,
Mhm.
did you ever think about running for public office?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It was not in, I mean, my children were adults, they were grown, and I wanted to really, as a paralegal, that's my background, wanted to just work from home as a paralegal and spoil my grandbabies and work on the descendants of the Elaine Massacre. And I decided to move back home because I wanted that work rooted here in Elaine.
Mhm.
And coming home, realizing we were not too far removed from what happened to this community a little bit more than 100 years ago, that there were still so many of those remnants, so much of that culture still here.
Mhm.
And as I started working in the community and advocating and trying to encourage and empower the community, started talking and working with the local government and trying to work with them to understand some things, and felt that the people in power, they were not willing to change. Not that they couldn't, they were just not willing to. And tried to encourage a few people I knew to throw their hat in the ring. And something said, hey, you can show people better than you can tell them. And threw my hat in for mayor.
So, I guess what some people would describe your previous public life would be as
Mhm.
like a social activist, and I'm always kind of dubious about the word activist because it's
Yes.
a loaded word. I like your word better. You
Mhm.
were a social advocate,
Advocate.
and you were also an educator.
Yes.
So you were already bringing like a very interesting skill mix
Mhm.
into running for mayor, and actually introducing a really interesting skill
Mhm.
set to be mayor.
Yes, yes, and I like that word advocate better. And I have people that call me, an activist, and hey, that's okay. But I prefer advocate because I like to keep my boots on the ground. I like to just be humble about it and just be rooted here and never have anyone in this community feel like I'm not approachable. And I think that's why advocate fits my attitude a little bit better.
So you come from a very rural community. When we were in the
Yes.
green room, you said farming runs deep.
Yeah.
So just talk a little bit about, how many people actually live in Elaine? Basically, what was the kind of electoral pool in terms of size?
Yes. Elaine is currently about 600 right here in the city of Elaine. Well, we have all the outlying areas, Lambert and Rashall, Melwood, Modoc, all the little surrounding communities. So I'm guessing we were about 1,200 when you add all of the surrounding communities. But here in Elaine, about the voting population is about 600.
Okay.
And about 600. And we African Americans make up about 70% of the population here.
Okay, so for those listening, tuning in, that's 70%. Because how many votes did you actually win by?
I won by 3 votes.
Can you say that again?
3 votes.
I told y'all. Didn't I tell y'all? I told y'all. I told y'all. I told y'all. That's all I'm gonna say.
So your electoral result proves that every single vote in a community counts.
I mean, down to the wire. Down to the wire. We counted the votes up, and I was counted the votes up the night of the election. This was a runoff election. In November, I ran against four people here for mayor, and I didn't get enough percentage of the vote to win. So we had a runoff with the incumbent mayor, and that was scheduled for December 6th. And the end of the night, he was leading me by 6 votes. The next day, we had to count the provisional ballots and absentee and provisional ballots. We got down to 17 provisional ballots. And we were both there present when the election commissioner and a couple of people from the state, which I had requested, be present at the counting. I had requested that in a letter, about 3 weeks prior to that they be present there. And 17 votes. We're sitting there waiting. He's leading by 6. They started counting. And after they got to where I was leading by 2, they counted 2 more for him, and the rest were for me. And I mean, it was, you could have heard a pin drop.
I am certain. So I've got a quick 2-part question for you. What were some of the barriers that you faced in terms of running? And were there any perception barriers, because not only were you African American, but you were also an African American woman?
I think some of the barriers were, this is a community that has traditionally been left out of the whole process. And when I say community, I'm speaking about the Black community, left out of the process, not feeling like their vote count. And so the whole process of empowering them, getting people registered, we got, I think, close to 40 people registered to vote, that had, some who had never voted before in their lives.
Oh, wow.
Yes, a lot of people never, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, who had never voted. And we got those people registered to vote, and just having events, talking to people, driving around, meeting people where they are. And these are people I know. I'm born and raised here. These are people I know. And just feeling like they were not a part of the process. And just encouraging them and just saying, hey, you want change, because everyone said, I want change. Well, you have to be part of the process. So, and we still had a lot of people who didn't vote, a lot of people who were afraid to vote, a lot of people who got scared away from voting.
Why was that?
Well, we had some people who were going around saying that, I even had people come to me and say, well, there's someone said that you're going to start another, if you're elected, you're going to start another race riot. Just
really?
Oh yeah, the fear tactics. You're going to work to take people's land, and their property, just those things to discourage voting. Because when you have a population that's 70% Black, and you have never had a Black mayor, we're in the Delta. We have always traditionally outnumbered, because you need that labor force. So not just in the Delta, but I'm talking Phillips County has always been predominantly, African American, Black. So, but few elected into office. And I knew that this change was possible. There were people that were working with me on my team who knew that this was possible. And I have to give the credit to them, because let me tell you, I have one, I call her a little black Nancy Pelosi. She knew how to count votes. She knows how to count votes. She was counting. She was like, and then on the day I went up to the courthouse and count, and she was like, we were talking, we were like, you're going to either lose by 2 or you're going to win by 2. That's just how she knew how to count votes. And I won by 3.
Wow.
Well, I mean, the sad part of it is, and I know this is going to resonate with Danya, it sounded as though the scaremongering, they picked up the Reconstruction era racist playbook, and they just read off, you know, the black people are going to take your land, they're going to take your money, they're going to marginalize you, it's all going to be reparations. It's just sad that the same playbook is still being used for black candidates.
That playbook was in full force.
Obama.
Oh,
it was used for Obama.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Same playbook.
I'm tweeting him now. You think I'm playing? I'm so not playing. And let's go into why I'm tweeting him now. I'm tweeting him now because they didn't tell people that you won.
They did not. A local newspaper, the Hell in the World, took a picture of me and sent me the picture at my swearing in. He took a picture of my swearing in, and I had someone, a white woman, come up to me right there as soon as I was sworn in, and she said, "This is historic." She was looking around. She was like thinking that there would be people there to take my picture and talk to me. In a white woman, she said, "This is historic." And she grabbed my arm and I said, "Thank you." She said, "Congratulations." And she was literally looking around like, where's everybody?
Yep.
And you were telling us in the green room, it wasn't even limited to the overlooking of it wasn't just limited to the local media and press. You said it was statewide.
State paper, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, the Arkansas Times, all of these papers. You know, this media here, not on the news, anything. I mean, no one. But then, you know, I look back and I see, you know, I remember all the papers from when we had the Elaine, you know, when the Elaine massacre, how they carried the narrative. The narrative is whatever they wanted it to be. They didn't want the attention, and so the papers didn't. No one even called me. I have not received one call. You're the first to reach out with me regarding my historical election, my historical win. First.
What do you think is behind that? The just complete wholesale ignoring of your election win.
You know, there's so many. I think this is what I believe. It gives people hope. It empowers people. It tells people not only do you want change, you have the power of change within your vote. That is it.
Y'all tell me we ain't choose the right person for Women's History Month. She is strong. She is powerful. I'm telling y'all, I got chill bumps running up and down my arms today.
And to set up a question or a comment that I know Danya wants to make, you know, it's not like because you were elected, you were just going to look after 70% of the population that's African, that's black. You were there to represent the entire town and to lift up the entire town.
The entire town, a town that is still racially divided, and we can't move forward. And that was my campaign slogan, Elaine forward. But we cannot move forward if we don't move forward together. It can't work. You know, we still have a town where the predominantly black on one side and white on the other side. And in order to move this community forward, and so many people want it, but we still have remnants of that fear, remnants of that, you know, people who want to keep it just as they have it because it benefits them. And so you have a community that is ready for this change. Change is already here. My election proves change is here. And we just got to put the work in. We have to put the work in. And I represent all of Elaine. I cannot, you know, my ancestors have been here since 1916. And I represented all of Elaine and even the surrounding communities.
That is so amazing. And the thing is that when we were in the green room and she was telling us this particular story, the way she said that not only did, everybody was so upset because they weren't talking about the fact that she had won, that none of that was being done. She was like, it's all good. We just got to move forward. Let me tell y'all something. That's what Black women do. And this is not to knock any other race of women, but I need y'all to take this particular thing as an example. This is exactly what Black women did when they saw that lonely little enslaved child sitting on the side because they were sold away from their parents. And now they had no one. They had no sibling. They had nobody. And that mama saw that baby. And when she saw that baby, she went and got him and said, come on over here and eat. I got you. I'm going to take care of you. Meanwhile, when she gets up the next morning, she's going to the house and take care of the enslavers' children and making sure that they are eating and making sure that they are fed and making sure that they are, it is something in us that we actually do on a regular basis. It's a regular thing for African American women to do this. So again, it's not about knocking another race. It's just embedded in us to be the kind of people to live and consistently lift everybody around us.
Yes.
When I tell you, okay, all right. Because I was about to stop.
Well, I was gonna while you're collecting your thought, I was going to say, even to the extent of uplifting people that Black women know don't like them, don't support them, will try in every way to trip them. Will try in every way to trip them up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we have several questions for you, but I want to skip to this one that just popped up because it's very. And then we'll go to the others because we do still want to get in to talk about the descendants of Elaine. But this question is by D. Turner. And this is a very great question. Does your congressman acknowledge that you are an elected official? Wow.
No.
Okay.
No.
Has
Nobody?
No. My state representatives. I have some state representatives who have reached out. The Arkansas Democratic Black Caucus, of course. The Arkansas Black Mayors Association had us for dinner, but none of the Congress people have acknowledged that. Yes. But the local, Black organizations have.
They should be
Your
ashamed of you.
the party that you ran under, the state representatives and level, the kind of state headquarters. I mean, has anyone really?
Well, no.
That's really sad. I mean, it's frustrating, it's angering, but it's also profoundly sad.
So no. Yeah. And my congressperson is Tom Cotton and French Hill. Am I right? French Hill, Tom Cotton. I can't think of the other gentleman's name, but yeah. So,
and again, it's especially as it's a result that it really fired up so many people within in your community in a good way.
Yeah.
Do you find that people actually kind of walk? I mean, this is going to sound really corny, but kind of walk a little bit more proudly. Maybe their head kind of tilted up.
Absolutely. Not just in Elaine, all over Phillips County.
Oh wow!
When I say all of Phillips County was rooting for me. I mean, it was
Oxon Hill, Maryland is doing it too. Oxon Hill, Maryland is holding their head up. There's at least one person in Oxon Hill, Maryland that's holding her head up extremely high right now.
Yeah, but Phillips County, I mean, I had to, on the state level, like I said, had those organizations reaching out to me and congratulating me. And but it just wasn't a lot of noise about it. And that's what was so upsetting to the community. And, I had someone was going live on Facebook to call out the hell in the world. And I said, nope, don't do that. Because we don't need their validation. We're not going to beg for their validation. because we see now, because it's more important that the people here and let me tell you, the first election, the general election, we had kids who were standing outside watching their parents go in for the first time to vote. Let me tell you that.
Wow.
When we had our young people watching their parents and cousins and uncles, they're voting next to Miss Lisa, my mama voted for you, and then I won. And that's generational. And we have to be intentional about that generational change that needs to happen. And I know that's some of the reason why the papers didn't want to highlight that. Because not only is it empowering here in Elaine throughout Phillips County, they mess around and vibrate through Arkansas, mess around and leave, and then they're in trouble.
Right.
So, yes.
My God.
So it was more than a victory. It was just so much more than a victory of winning. It was just what this means for this community, what it means for Phillips County, what it means for Arkansas. And this is something you can teach on. You can, you can teach on. So, yeah.
So before we get into the kind of backstory, the actual history of Elaine, which really puts your election into a vivid context, I mean, what did it, as you said, your family had deep roots. They've been there since 1916. I mean, what has your win meant to your family?
Oh my goodness. My mom is 81. Now, my grandmother raised me, and she left us in 2019. But my mom I didn't really talk to her, tell her someone slipped and said something about me running, but she was scared. And when she did find out, she was nervous. And I told everyone, let me tell her I won. But once I told her I won, she was proud because her neighbors and everybody was talking about it, so my family is ecstatic. I mean, they were so encouraging. I'm related to half of Elaine, so I have cousins all over the place. My uncle, brothers, and everyone in my family is still here, but everyone is, oh my goodness. And I love to hear the kids call me. They, first they called me Miss Lisa, now they call me Mayor Lisa, and I love it.
And again,
here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. You just said you're related to half of Elaine.
Elaine, yeah.
And yet it was still a hard runoff, given the fact that it was 70%, that area is 70% African Americans.
Yep.
Every person had to vote in order for you to win. Like,
and there were still some people who didn't vote, and they told me I was scared, and and I still had people tell me they didn't vote, and I wished I had voted for you. I said, that's going to be a next time, because I still have to,
And I really want to pick up on that just quickly on that fear point. Because Donnie and I we often speak about voter suppression, and we do get blowback from certain segments of the American population to say that voter suppression doesn't exist. And it may not blatantly exist that way in urban environments. There are other shenanigans that get played in urban environments. But in rural areas, especially once you start getting to the west of the Mississippi River, that is a real form of voter suppression, making people afraid to go out and cast their vote.
Yeah. And not only that, and this would, to explain why I asked the state to come in on the second election on the runoff. The first election, they opened our polls up almost 2 hours late.
Wow.
They didn't have enough people. We have one voting place. In early voting, that's an hour round trip to Helena and back. That's an hour round trip. So we don't have early voting here in Elaine. Then they opened our poll, the first election, opened our polls 2 hours late. Didn't have enough people to work it. It was just so many barriers. We had people that showed up the first time who waited and they had to go to work and weren't going to get back home in time enough to vote. So we had some people that wanted to vote and couldn't. And then it happened. Then that's why I asked the state to be here the second time. And they were here and they witnessed the poll being open late. They witnessed that the place for the community to vote was inadequate, was not sufficient. They made those statements. And they witnessed a lot of things that now they're going to change, help to change. And that all those barriers are true. I mean, I think some of the current legislation in place was a result of what happened, not just here in Elaine, but in Helena, throughout Phillips County, those barriers to vote. And it's craziness. It is craziness.
And without naming employers, I mean, was that another tactic that some employers made it difficult for staff to leave to be able to vote?
No, well, I don't think that was the issue.
Oh, that's good.
Well, I don't think that was the issue because we don't have really an economy. A lot of people they might have to work 30, 40 to an hour away. So having to go ahead and leave and get to work, and then in the evening coming home, having enough time to vote. And I did ask when they were late opening, I asked, can we have that same amount of time to keep the polls open later on both occasions? And they would not. So that was a barrier, right, within itself. So our polls, both elections, were not open the correct amount of time for people to vote. So yeah. It's like every tactic that could be. So when we think about me winning by 3 votes, some people not getting to vote, you're throwing in the fear tactic. Some people not voting, it's the intention was clear.
That is so amazing. Like when I tell you, I did not know we were going, okay, so I'm gonna tell y'all how we got to Miss Lisa or Mayor Lisa. Let me give her from this point on. Mayor Lisa. We got to Mayor Lisa because Brian was doing a presentation for the Memphis, Tennessee Augs. Yeah, Memphis, Tennessee Augs. And Miss Lisa was a part of the Black History program. It was supposed to be for a Black History program. Miss Lisa was a part of the Black History program, Mayor Lisa. And when Mayor Lisa was a part of the Black History program, not for her being the first mayor, but for something else that we're going to be discussing, the descendants of Elaine, which is basically another Tulsa massacre around the same time period. Matter of fact, 2 years before it. But anyway, this is how we got introduced to her. And it wasn't until I contacted Eunice and said, listen, we would like to talk to Mayor Lisa. And that's when Eunice told me, oh, she's perfect. Did you know that she was the first African-American mayor and the first female mayor of Elaine, Arkansas? And I was like, get out of here. So, that's what did it. And we were like, yeah, we need her. We need her now. We need to talk to her now. But to learn, to sit here listening to you and learn that you were shunned by everybody, that they still really have not acknowledged who you are.
Nope.
It blows my mind. So I need you to know that I've tweeted Miss Stacey Abrams off. I mean,
if you don't think we were channeling her work, when we write this story, she will say, "Oh, they read my book." Yes, absolutely.
You did.
I'm telling you, we were.
You did. I've already tweeted. I just tweeted her. I don't know if she watches this show, but I told her, if you never watch a show, this is where you gonna start. You need to watch this show. If no other show, watch this one. I said, meet you. That's what I put. Meet you.
So your election result was the bright star in an arc that had a very dark origin story.
Yes.
So Elaine, Arkansas was the scene and starting set of a horrific race riot. Just to set it up, if I remember correctly, it was 1919. Is that correct?
1919.
Okay. So for the audience members to kind of put this into an overall historical kind of lens of what was happening in the United States at that time, 1919 was possibly one of the worst years post-slavery to be Black in this country. So we had Black men coming back from World War I, one coming back from war, two surviving the Spanish influenza, which was kicking around. So, tensions in this country were high. Again, just dealing with the Spanish, that second round of Spanish influenza had people on edge. Then you have militarily trained Black men who had more than likely killed white enemy in Europe coming back to this country, which kind of led, and then deciding that they weren't going to live the lives of their sharecropping parents. They're like, the old ways don't work for us anymore. We've literally put our lives on the line, fighting for democracy, fighting for this country. And we want to organize our labor. We want to actually get paid a fair day's wage for a fair day's work. So just normal stuff. They weren't asking for anything, and we want to be treated with respect and dignity. We want our service, and we want us as a people to be recognized. Well, 1919, there were race massacres all over the country.
Yes.
And this was one of them. And can you just so with that backdrop, can you tell us about the Elaine massacre?
Yes, and you segue into it just perfectly. September 30th, and segue into it, understanding that the threats and the intimidation didn't begin on this night, September 30th, 1919. It had been going on as they were organizing the Progressive Farmers and Households Union of America, led by Robert H. Hill. His mom lived just right 6 miles on down past Elaine and Rashaw. It's called Ratio, but I call it Rashaw because that's how I grew up saying it. But yeah, the night of September 30th in a church, Hoopsburg, it's just 3 miles up the road here from Elaine. Black sharecroppers were organizing. They were getting ready to pay an attorney and hire him to help them sue the plantation owners. They were not getting fair statements for their goods that they'd taken up at the store, and they were being offered, cotton was upward 40 cents a pound, but they were being offered 20 cents or 25 cents. And so they were hiring an attorney to come help them sue the plantation owners. And that night they were meeting, and local plantation owners, railroad agents showed up at the church that night, shot in the church and killing men, women, children inside of the church. And like you said, they knew how to shoot, and they had been warned to keep their racks full, and they shot back, killing one of the agents. One of the white agents, and that led off to as I think the USA Today says, the worst racial massacre in the history of this country that happened right here in the small community of Elaine, Arkansas. And newspapers, not just the Hell in the World, it's still the local paper here now, and other newspapers throughout the state wrote stories of there's an insurrection. They were organizing to kill white people, and use those lies as an excuse to cover up what they had done, and also to call the governor and have the governor. And again, as we just talked about, the population at that time, Black people outnumbered white people probably 5 to 1, because that Black labor force in the field. So of course it were more. And then when they came to the next morning after, I'm probably skipping around, but that next morning after they had shot into the church, you had the KKK, people coming as far away as Mississippi, flooding into Elaine, started shooting Black men, women, and children. Some didn't even know the massacre had happened. They were in the fields. And but the governor sent about 500 troops into Elaine, machine guns. And when it was over, upward of 800 Black men, women, and children have been massacred here in Elaine and some of the surrounding communities. And we have probably, I'm going to say, of the Black people that are still here, most of them are descendants. Those names that you see, even you look at the Elaine 12, you look at those that were in prison, and the ones I have on my list, those names are still right here. Those people still living in this community today. So, and that's just
y'all not gonna sit here and tell me. Y'all not gonna tell me y'all don't have chills. I know you do. I know you do. Ain't no way. Ain't no way.
And I think we spoke about it during when you were presenting at AUGS, the Tennessee chapter. I to this day don't understand what it is about our skin color that people without our skin color can create the most outrageous lies, just accuse us of all kinds of evil and bad doings. and make it believable.
Mhm.
We're never, as a people, we are never given the benefit of the doubt.
No, we're not. And that goes back to what I was saying about that Black mother who
Mhm.
watched that enslaved child sit there
Mhm.
that wasn't eating, that didn't have a sibling, a mom, a dad, that didn't have anyone, and she turned around and she grabbed her or
Mhm.
him and she picked them up and she started doing what was supposed to be done for him.
Mhm.
But yet we are supposedly the most vile and vicious people who ever walked the face of this earth.
Yeah.
That's how we are continuously represented. No matter
Mhm.
what is going on, no matter how it's going on, we are always represented as the most vile
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
monsters and just doing things. And it's not who we are.
Yeah, we're the most nurturing, most
Mhm.
forgiving. We're the most
Most
nurturing, most forgiving, most
mm,
willing to work with you to make it better, to unite, to
yes.
let's and because part of my work is, reconciliation. Even myself, I can't, as angry as I was when I first learned, and understand this, a lot of us, including myself, we didn't learn or know about the Elaine massacre growing up. I learned about it in my 40s as an adult, accidentally,
Mm.
running across a book. No one ever told us this. I was in a
So
history class.
what book was it in?
Blood in Their, it's called Blood in Their Eyes, the Elaine Race Massacre of 1919 by Griff Stockley. I was in a history class and ran across this book and thought this was something someone had made up. And I'm literally, why would someone make up this about Elaine, And I had to, a few of my classmates and us, we were talking and none of us had heard about it. This is somebody made up. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I gotta ask mama. I gotta ask mama. And just something just kept, and it just, and when I came home a couple of weeks later, I asked her, and that was surreal. I mean, I was just numb when she said that this had happened. I mean, just numb. I just couldn't believe, and I was angry at our grandparents and for not telling us this. But then when I remember, start thinking about things that happened in my childhood, so much made sense. So much of their behavior, how they reacted, how when we couldn't come on Main Street in Elaine, when we go to certain stores, we stayed in the car. So how we couldn't get anything to eat at a restaurant here. So many things started making sense once I really learned, and my grandmother started telling me stories. And I knew some of the survivors. I went to church with them. Some of them whooped my butt. Survivors of this massacre who had been there. I mean, actually survived it. And I knew these people. They were my elders. And it was just surreal for so long.
Mhm. But
That's
again,
got to be something.
Mm-hmm.
and again, I'm focusing on the bit of the history of the precursor to the Elaine massacre. The lies being told almost made it seem like the community, for lack of a better phrase, was going to borrow the play, was going to do what the Haitians did.
Mm-hmm.
When that couldn't have been, is it guilty conscience or, I guess in the back of America's psyche,
Mm-hmm.
expecting a retribution, which more, if it was going to ever have happened, it would have happened long ago.
Yeah.
We're not about that.
Because has there ever been a retribution? And it's not even in, when I listen to my grandmother and listen to the stories, the strongest word my grandmother used during that whole 5-6 years that she told me these stories was cruel. That was the word, the strongest word she used. Maybe they were just cruel. When she started talking about, especially the story talking about how when they came the day after they shot in the church, how they came and there were people in the fields who were working, picking cotton, who didn't even know anything had happened. And they started just shooting women, children in the fields picking cotton who didn't know what had happened. And she said, baby, they were just cruel. And that's the hardest word. So even in all of these stories, she never got angry. Her tone, it was more fear. She was afraid I would say something to someone and, ask me not to talk to anyone about what she was telling me. That fear outlived this flyer here, because this is the actual flyer that was posted in the paper. It's dated October 7, 1919, posted in the paper and taken out to the fields and read to the sharecroppers to be quiet. Don't talk about it. And it says, stop talking, be quiet, go back to work. So this flyer supersedes It's historical context. And this has literally been what my grandparents and those before them lived by. And that is the reason why we never knew about the Elaine massacre, because that silence was so deeply embedded in them. And you have to, when they're, there are letters a soldier wrote about bodies being drugged down the street.
So they were traumatized again.
Yes.
So they were physically traumatized, and then they were psychologically traumatized by being told to shut up.
Shut up.
I mean, well, you also got to think about when this all happened and everything. And this is the reason why this is such a great lesson is because first and foremost, the first thing for me that I'm getting from this, just how closely we're not so far removed from stuff like this, but we are also not so far removed from slavery, because let's just be honest, a lot of these people that went through this stuff were once enslaved. These were still some survivors from slavery as well.
Two of the Elaine 12, two of the 12 men that were in prison were former slaves. They were born slaves.
Here we go.
Two of them.
So with that, with that being said, this is then, that fear that you were talking about, it was already in them because of slavery. And it just got rehashed, re-brought up because of the fact that now, okay, look, this is what I want y'all to do, and you're not going to do it. This is what you're going to do. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. When that was
and the bodies hanging and the mass graves and the bodies left lying in the street just reinforced that fear, and these are stories that soldiers told. Soldiers wrote letters home telling of the atrocities that happened during the Elaine massacre.
So have you what are some of the things that you are doing as far as the Elaine massacre is concerned, and how are you incorporating it into your mayoral duty?
Well, I tell you, I am not incorporating it into my mayoral duties. I am working to keep it separate. And I know at some point it overlaps. It cannot, because I cannot be mayor and I'm not going to stop doing this work. But I try to keep it as separate as I can. Because I want there to be unity. I want us to work together. And I have talked to people who are descendants on the other side, whose ancestors participated in this massacre. And they have fear and concerns as well. So this work around the descendants of the Elaine massacre of 1919, I'm going to continue this. I'm expanding this work, but I am not incorporating it into my duties as mayor. I'm working to keep that separate, and like I said earlier, and I say to people often, being mayor is what I do. Being a descendant is who I am. I can't get away from that. I cannot get away from that. I can stop being the mayor, but I can't stop being a descendant. So,
well, again, I'm going to flip the script on that kind of narrative just a bit. So in turn, as a mayor, you have the nuts and bolts of your job, obviously making sure that the coffers are full, that the town is ticking over, that the roads get dealt with, and all, just the nuts and bolts of being mayor. But you also have a real chance. It's you, I guess you specifically, given your history in that side of the town, to really kind of bring the town together and kind of heal.
Yes. That's the work I want to do as mayor, and use not only this, but also this gives me the opportunity to address all of those injustices that still exist. And that transgenerational trauma, that economic disparity, all of that is still trickling into this community as a result of this massacre, as a result of our ancestors not becoming self-sufficient, not buying land and having their own farms, all of that. And as I talk about loss of legacies and lineages, all of that didn't develop because of what happened, because of the massacre. And I've had, descendants from the other side admit that because of what my grandfather did to your grandfather, your ancestors. That is the reason why Black people in your community did not prosper, did not become self-sufficient, did not build and have their own farms. So, and so as mayor, if I could help correct some of that, and people often talk to me about reparations, and reparations look different to everyone. And sometimes my idea of reparations is not ideal. I'm not looking at, Elaine, and when you talk about reparations as a big fat check, I'm looking at substantial changes, housing, and those things. I mean, we need houses, and we need a grocery store. We need some type of economic development so that my community can stop just surviving and start thriving. Those are some of the things that I'm going to work toward addressing. Our water is horrendous, you know, and so those are some of the things that I'm going to address and make sure that people are educated by starting their own business.
Yeah, and particularly with farmers who are going through a really tough time. And I just quickly wanted to say, there's also another form of reparations that never really gets discussed, and it benefits the less or non-melanated people.
Yeah.
You're living in a town and a county that's kind of entrapped. It's entrapped by its history, and it's in stasis. Psychological reparations.
Yes.
They can benefit, white people can benefit from that psychological reparations just as much as African Americans can.
Yes, that is true. That is true. That is true.
Well, okay, so I think I'm about to be like devil's advocate or something like that, because I don't think I could. You're in a position, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but you're in the kind of position, because first of all, the other story that connects us, that made us want Mayor Lisa, is because of the fact that during her program with the Augs, she was like, okay, well, I gotta go because the kids are knocking at the door. So the humbleness in her is what I was like, yeah, we need to get this lady before. She was like, I may be mayor, but I still got, when they knock at the door, they expect me to answer. Those were her exact words. Those were the exact words. So with that being said, you are a kid, you are a child person. You want to make sure, is there a way for you to somehow work with the school system to get this story into their history books? And would that be considered you keeping it separate from your mayoral duties, or is that something different? Because see, that's my mindset. I'm like, okay, you just said you didn't do it, but now you got the opportunity. So,
well, right. I don't know if you're aware of Governor Sarah Huckabee's
go on and say
legislation.
You in the same space.
She's on the same page with Ron DeSantis regarding African American studies. So she's taken a page out of his playbook. Actually, it's the same playbook, and that's being played out here in Arkansas as well. And I've posted on my page that I don't care what you write in the legislation. I'm not going back to this. I'm not going back to this. That's why I wear this T-shirt that says "Silent No More." I'm not going back to that. We're not doing that. So I am writing in the process with another descendant. We are writing a curriculum. Because so much of this work, and one of the reasons why I created Descendants, I call it Dome 1919, is because it was so much conversation, so much work and conversations being had about us, without us. These are our stories. This is our history. And there were people creating narratives and work. Every single book that's written about the Elaine Massacre is not written by a descendant. There's no book, not one book of substance written about the Elaine Massacre by a descendant, by somebody who has blood ties. Not one. And that is what I'm working to change. There are people coming to our communities who's gotten our information in written books. And there was one a couple of weeks ago on a platform being called at the Mosaic Temple. And she's standing up there, not a descendant, not from this community. And she's being honored. And I'm like, I didn't even get an invitation.
Oh,
I wasn't even wasn't even invited. Yes, those are the things that are happening. So when I say preserving and protecting this history, we have to reclaim this work. and making sure that the work being done about our history and it's honoring our ancestors is done respectfully and honoring. So this curriculum is going to be by us, and we're working on it as I speak. And that's another, the Elaine Massacre Silent No More exhibit is, you know, we had it last year, but we're expanding it to a traveling exhibit to go around the country and include in one of the ways to address the economic injustices, because we know that it's going to be hard to get industry to come into Elaine. So we're going to have to build it from the inside out. So one of the things included inside this exhibit as it travels, every single book, t-shirt, cup, mug, whatever it is, it will be all merchandise products and authors that are descendants of the Elaine Massacre. Nothing else will be allowed to be sold. None of it, every item in there. And I'm right now working on programs to help people in Elaine create businesses. If you want to, we already have 2 authors from Elaine. She's working on a second book. Those books will be part of the exhibit. So, and nothing against the authors, but it would have served this community and served our ancestors so much better if you and an author, you to come here to this community
and talk to us,
and did a workshop.
How about
Did a workshop.
That?
Talk to us about how you can help with your publisher, help us to write, but we have not gotten that. I'm like, okay, you know how it goes. You don't invite me, bring my own chair first. No, we're going to create our own table. So that is the work that we're doing with Dome 1919.
Well, that's excellent.
Yes.
And to answer a couple of audience members' questions, things like incidents like Elaine, massacres like Elaine happened the length and breadth of this country, west to east, north to south. If you're really interested, the phrase to Google will be Red Summer of 1919. And it's called the Red Summer not because of ties to communism, but because of the sheer amount of blood that was spilled in that year.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
so many of them that happened.
I mean, first of all, we should have made this a special, because a special would have been an hour and a half to 2.
Yeah.
And we could have gone on and on and on. But so we couldn't get to these questions, but I am going to send these questions to you.
Okay.
Because, like, I mean, we got one that says, what did you say to the people of your town that convinced them to be a part of the democratic process? And that's a great question. So I do want that one to be, you know.
But again, what I really love about this conversation is there is not a hint.
Can I answer that?
Sure. Yep,
this is what I said. And that is quick and easy. I said, I don't want you to vote for me. I want you to vote for Elaine. Vote for your family. Don't vote for Lisa. Vote for Elaine. Vote for your family. Vote for your children. Vote for yourself. Don't vote for me. That's what I said.
And that was it.
And they did. And I said, I'm not here to earn your trust. I'm not here to earn your vote. I'm here to earn your trust. Trust me. And I won't let you down. And I said, I want the community here to hold me accountable for everything I say I'm going to do. And they will. My elders, they're going to hold me accountable.
See, and there's that humility again. And what I love about this conversation and speaking with you is no one could accuse you of cynicism or bitterness.
Oh, no. Don't have time.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Lisa, Mayor Lisa, I am just so very excited to have you on this show. This was way more than I was expecting. I'm so full right now. And when I tell you I am going to share this show with everybody in the world, everybody, I am sharing it. I am sharing it. It's a must. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get you some interviews, boo, because this is amazing how you just you are amazing. And I thank you for being on our show and for just being a woman of history who really is going to go down in history books. You have to. You have no. You have no choice. You literally have no choice because of who you are. You're the first. You are a first. So first go down, regardless of what anybody says, even if they don't like them. First go down. First go down in history for everything that they did. And you weren't just the first African American. You were the first female. I'm loving it. So I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you both so much for having me. And you
And
are
same.
the first to give me to even discuss my victory. Thank you.
What?
Yes, y'all are the first to call me and interview me regarding being the first African American to be elected mayor of Elaine.
Did you cry?
First, and I thank you.
Was it ever a moment that you just sat in your room and cried because of all this?
I cried because how hurt the community was. I was upset, not because they didn't acknowledge me, because they didn't acknowledge what this community rose up and did for themselves, that they wanted this for themselves. That's what upset me, that they didn't acknowledge a community that's been so oppressed and suppressed, rose up, and they didn't acknowledge that. And they deserve better than that.
It rose up in the best, most constructive way possible.
Yes. And help get each other to the polls, work with each other. Hey, you go pick up Mr. I had daughters call, can you go get my dad? And these, work, and they didn't even, but that's okay. That's okay.
Well, I just want you to know that Miss Deborah Singleton, she said, this was a great show. My family is from Arkansas. Never heard of this story. So happy for this information. We'll share this with my children. So you going to see what you're doing.
Thank you, Miss Deborah.
I love it. So, okay, well, we gotta go, Brian, because this is over.
And then we're gonna get in trouble with our network.
Okay.
Yeah.
But please stay. But Mayor Lisa, do please stay on with us in the green room.
Yes.
To our audience, thank you so much for your questions, which we will try our best to get them answered for you. Thank you for tuning in. No matter how you've done it, we've just been privileged to share this hour with you. We don't even have time to introduce next week's show. Just to say, we will see you here 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in all our usual places. And until then, I'm Brian Sheffy.
And I'm Donya Williams. We will see you guys later. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.